Welcome to the Secrets of College Planning. I'm your host, Anthony Uva, and today we're going to get some insight into athletics at the Ivy League. So my guest today is Mollie Marcoux Samaan, and she is the Ford Family Athletic Director for Princeton University. So welcome to the show.
Thanks, Anthony. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah. So usually I start my guests where they went to college. So where'd you go to school?
I actually went right down the street. I went to Princeton, and I graduated in '91.
All right, great.
Yeah.
So let's just go back in time. When did you start thinking about college? Was it freshman year of high school, senior year? When did it all begin for you?
I think back then people weren't thinking about college quite so early. So I think I started probably in my junior year, and I played soccer and ice hockey. And I was a pretty committed student. So I had sort of narrowed my choices down to the Ivy League schools primarily. I mean, I had to have a few, safety schools in there too, but I really wanted to play ice hockey and soccer in college, and I wanted to go to a great school. So I really only applied to the Ivy League schools, to 5 of the Ivy League schools.
Oh, great.
And I visited all of them and was sort of being recruited for both sports. So had the opportunity to meet coaches at both, really 10 coaches, because you had soccer coaches and hockey coaches. And in the end, really came down to just sort of a feeling of comfort. I really liked all the schools that I visited, but Princeton just grabbed me the minute I walked onto campus as a place that I felt extremely comfortable, where I felt comfortable, and sort of where I felt like I would fit in the best.
Right. So you go to Princeton University. How's the atmosphere? What is it like as a student there?
Yeah, I mean, Princeton's an amazing place. It's very much of a college. When you're on campus, you really feel like you're on campus. And I think that's what attracted me to the university, too, is I grew up in Ithaca, where Cornell is. So I grew up in a college town. I loved Cornell, and I loved everything that it stood for. But, you want to get out of town. And a lot of members of my class, my high school class, went to Cornell. And so I wanted to sort of forge a new path. But Princeton is, I think, uniquely a college. And so when you get on campus, you're on campus, you feel like you're on campus, you feel like a part of a community. And I think that was the feeling that I got right when I got there, is that I was a part of something bigger than myself. Not only the teams, but you live in a residential college, and you feel really connected to that residential college, and you feel connected to the larger university, but you also feel connected to the organizations within which you participate. I happened to be able to play 2 sports there, so right away when I got there as a freshman, I was on the soccer team, and you have a built-in community, and then transitioned right onto the hockey team as well.
Great. So now you graduate from Princeton University, and how do you become the athletic director at Princeton University?
Yeah, when I graduated 27 years ago, I didn't think this is where I'd be sitting. This wasn't the path that I had sort of thought I was going to take, although I did know I wanted to work in sports in some way when I graduated. I ended up going to the Lawrenceville School right after I graduated and worked in their athletic department. I was actually covering a maternity leave of an assistant athletic director at the boarding school down the road. And I was still trying to play a little ice hockey, and I was interested in maybe coaching. So I coached the girls' ice hockey team and the girls' soccer team, and I worked in the athletic department. And I was only supposed to do it for a year, and then I really liked it and really enjoyed my experience. And so the school said, well, we'd love you to stay. What would you like to do? And I thought working in admissions would be fun. And so I did that for 3 years, and I lived in a dorm. I actually lived in a boys' dorm, so I was right out of college, and I lived in a 10th and 11th grade boys, they call them houses at Lawrenceville, and did that for 3 more years. So I was there for 4 years. But I kind of had the sense that I wanted to work in sort of sports marketing or sports management and get into the sort of corporate world. And so from there, I went to work for Chelsea Piers, which is a big sports complex in Manhattan. At that time, it was 1995, and we were just opening. They had just a few employees. Most of the buildings, the facilities were not open yet. The corporate offices weren't even at the location of the facility. So I, through a connection from Lawrenceville, I met one of the owners, and the owners were Yale guys. So there's a little Princeton Yale thing going on there. But and it worked out to be an unbelievable 19-year career that I had with them, working in all sorts of different areas of their business, running businesses, doing marketing, doing sponsorship, starting a foundation. I know you and I were talking at the break about the foundation you work for, and we started a similar foundation where we provided under-resourced kids with athletic opportunities, both at Chelsea Piers and other places. Yeah. So that was really fun, and then so I worked there for a good, I guess, 17 years, 16 years in New York, and then we started a facility in Connecticut as well. We opened up a 400,000 square foot second facility in Stamford, Connecticut, and I went up and helped start that and helped run that. And I was doing that and having a great time and enjoying my my time in my life when Princeton called and said that they were engaged in a search for an athletic director. And I said, you know, I haven't worked a day in my life in college sports. I've obviously worked in sports my whole career, but, and they said, well, just come talk to us because we're really interested in hiring an alum. We're really interested in someone who has broad-based management experience and can run a complex organization. And, you know, might just, you know, I said, well, how, if Princeton calls, you always answer, right? You know, I love Princeton. I've always loved Princeton. So I came down and interviewed, and sort of one thing led to the next, and all of a sudden I was the new athletic director. So again, not something I was expecting, not necessarily the career path that I was on, but it's been fantastic.
And so how long at Princeton University are you now?
This is my 4th year.
Oh, fantastic. So let's get into what an athletic director does. Well, what's it encompass?
I'm still trying to figure that out a little bit, but no, it's great. I mean, I think, again, a lot of it is sort of just setting the tone for the department and setting the direction, the strategic direction of the athletic department. We at Princeton have a very large department. There are 37 varsity teams. A lot of Division I schools have 15 to 20 teams, and we have 37. So part of the Ivy League principles are sort of broad-based participation. So all the schools in the Ivy League have a lot of teams. So it's really, hiring, retaining, working with all of those coaches, really, again, setting the overall strategy of the department from marketing and fundraising and facility development and management, and then being the liaison to the rest of the university, which is vitally important. Obviously, our mission is education through athletics. That's what we believe in. So we very much believe that the athletic mission needs to complement and enhance the academic mission, and that they all have to work hand in hand. So I work very closely with the rest of the university and try to fulfill the university president's mission and make sure we're doing that through athletics on a day-to-day basis.
So now how many students from Princeton University are part of the athletic program?
Well, we like to say almost all of our students participate in athletics in some way, whether it's through the intercollegiate program or through our campus recreation program, which we have another 37 or 38 club teams a year. Wow. And then we run a very broad-based intramural program. So we have about 1,000 varsity athletes or intercollegiate athletes, and then I think we get about 4,500 kids come through in some way through intramurals or through the club programs. So we like to say we get almost all of our kids doing something within the athletic department. And again, the same mission holds, not just for intercollegiate athletics, but for everything that we do. We're trying to educate through the athletic experience.
Now, the biggest question that a lot of families come to me about is academics. Some schools talk about it's just about the sports, it's not about academics. How does Princeton University work that with the student athletes that are playing at the school?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's what's really unique. I mean, our students are truly student athletes, and they have all the same exact requirements as all the other students at Princeton. They have to be excellent students to be admitted, and so we look at it as they're both sides of that hyphen. That you're a student and you're an athlete, and you have to do both, and I think that's what's really unique about the Ivy League. And when you talk to our kids, that's why they choose the Ivy League, I think, for the most part, and that's why I chose it, because I wanted to be as good as I could be athletically, and I wanted to get the best possible education and push myself academically. And I think that's the uniqueness of the Ivy League. So the kids know that this is going to be a challenge. They know that they're going to have to do both, and they're going to have to put that extra time in to be a great athlete, and they're going to have to put the same amount of time or more time in to be a great student.
So is there allocated amount of times for, I guess, studying, things of that sort that each one of the coaches give them?
Well, I think, again, when you graduate from Princeton as a student athlete, you did it just like every other student there. We don't have specific athletic tutors, or we don't have study halls for our athletes. We have schedules that we think allow our students to be students and to be athletes at the same time. So some of the principles of the Ivy League is that there's some playing and practice restrictions that are slightly different than the rest of the NCAA, just to give kids to recognize that some of their academics are a bit more challenging, but at the same time, it's very doable. I think if you work hard in both, you'll do just fine. And so we try to we try to let the kids forge their own path, but then give them the support that they need. Sometimes they need a little extra support because their schedules are so demanding, just in the sense of making sure there's some accommodation for the travel. But for the most part, we ask them to be excellent students and to demand that of themselves, as well as excellent athletes.
So now, out of the 37 sports, do you get the coaches coming to you for advice, picking out different recruits that they're looking at?
I mean, I don't get involved in the recruiting. I mean, the coaches really are like CEOs of their own program, and we in the athletic administration provide support for them. We have a pretty unusual organizational chart at Princeton where all of the head coaches actually report to me. So there are 34 head coaches of the 37 sports. And normally varsity head coaches will report into various administrators. Organizationally, they all report to me, which is great because there's equity across all the sports, but it's not possible for me to sort of, manage them on a day-to-day basis. So I have a fantastic group of senior administrators who each, help with various sports. So there's 3 of them that they each have 13 or so sports that they work with, and they help with advice. And again, they're not getting too involved in the recruiting process, but they help with all aspects and provide extra support and help the coaches get the resources that they need to be successful.
So now the business part of athletic directors is marketing and sponsorships and I guess fundraising, right, for the sports. The sports are pretty much fully funded by alumni. How does it work at an Ivy League school?
Yeah, I mean, it's different at every school, and I think the great news that Princeton's very supportive of athletics, and they provide the basic necessities of what our teams need to compete. And then for some extra things, we're doing some fundraising for some of the extra amenities and extra resources that they need to sort of reach the next level. But every school sort of handles it differently and manages it differently. But again, fortunately, one of the best parts of my job is that we get to focus on the core mission of the department, which is really, we say we have 3 goals, two main goals, and one that we really believe in as well. But the first is that education through athletics, and we work very hard to provide a platform that kids can learn much more than just learning how to be great athletes, great basketball players or football players, but they're learning about life through that athletic platform. And then 2, we want to be competitively excellent. We want to win, and we're sort of unapologetic about that, and we think we can do both. We think we can provide this great balance between the academics and the athletics, and we can also use our platform to teach really important and valuable life lessons to our students, sort of that co-curricular experience. And the third goal is, in the Ivy League, Princeton and the rest of the schools, I mean, I think we believe we're sort of a model NCAA program, and we have that ability to show the rest of the world that you can sort of do it all in a values-based way and still be very good athletically.
So now, as the athletic director, is your job also to go out there and create some type of events for fundraising? Do you do that
we
kind
do.
of stuff?
We do. For example, we run. We started something a couple years ago that we call Tiger Athletics Give Day, and there are other schools that do sort of 24-hour give day challenges, and we created this really with the goal of bringing the athletic community together in one day to raise money for the Friends groups. We have 17 different Friends groups which support different teams and sports. So men's and women's soccer, for example, has one Friends group. So that's why they're not one for every team. It's sort of by program. And so we created this day, and it's 24 hours of giving, and the idea around it is just to participate. It's not necessarily, it's about raising money, and this year we raised almost $2.5 million on the day, which is fantastic, on just that one 24-hour period. But we had 8,000 people give some type of a gift on that day, which is phenomenal. And some, again, $20 is the minimum, so it's big gifts, small gifts, and the whole really goal of the day was to bring together the Tiger athletic community in support of the work that our student athletes do and our coaches do, and in support of mostly the school where they went and where they love, and so it's been really fun. There's great social media campaigns around it, and our kids are engaged, our student athletes are engaged in the day, and so through a really big collaborative team effort with our development office and with our Princeton Varsity Club. We have a board of directors that helps run the Princeton Varsity Club alums, and they are very supportive. They kind of got on board to it originally. They help. We have challenges on the day. We pit one group against another group in sort of competitive fundraising, and our coaches are coaches, and student athletes are they're all competitive, and so by creating some type of a competition that's pretty unique. Most places aren't doing quite what we're doing, and we have a ton of fun with it. We have a website dedicated to it, and people are watching the leaderboards, and we put teams in different brackets based on the size of their organization. So that's an example of something that we've done from a fundraising perspective. A lot of fundraising for athletics happens at Princeton within the Central Development Office, and we work very, very collaboratively with them. So the whole premise of the way Princeton works is a very team-oriented and collaborative place.
Now, academic-wise, what are some of the requirements that Princeton looks for students to come to school there?
Well, I mean, listen, in order to be admitted to Princeton, there's no secret, you have to be a great student. I mean, you obviously have to have great grades, you have to be a really hard worker, you have to be committed and love learning, and you have to, obviously the testing is important, and so, we're looking for kids that are really committed students, obviously, and that really take their academics, the commitments and priorities very, very seriously.
So how about the school in general? What can student athletes or just students in general, when they come to Princeton University, what can they expect when they go there?
As a student?
Yeah.
I mean, I think the thing that's really amazing is the opportunities are endless in terms of co-curricular opportunities as well as academic opportunities. And so whatever your passion is, you can find it, and you can find it at a really, really high level. I think the other thing that's even different from when I went to school here 27 years ago is that the support that's put in place for the students is amazing. So academic support or any type of support that they're looking for, there are so many committed professionals that work at the university that really have made their life mission to help students. And so I think hopefully when students come, they feel a real sense of community. They feel that they're being pushed on all levels, but at the same time they're being supported. And that's a balance that we try to strike all the time in athletics as well. Obviously, we want to achieve at the highest levels, and we want to win and be successful, but the result's not really what matters. It's sort of the process of getting us there, getting there. And so we talk a lot about those values that we are trying to instill in our student athletes. We've actually developed this, what we're calling a Be a Tiger performance model. And the A stands for accountable, the T stands for team-oriented, the I stands for integrity, the G for growth-minded, the E for engaged, and the R for respect or respectful. So we're asking our students to be tigers, to be a tiger. And if they live their life that way and they live with those values, we think that they'll not only be successful, but they'll sort of have a good balanced sense of life and reduce stress and anxiety and recognize that it's really about the process rather than the result. And we think the result will follow from that.
Now, do you find a lot of networking that goes on at Princeton University with the students that are there?
Among the students?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I think one of the other big things about Princeton that people talk about all the time is that, it's a lifelong community. And people stay connected to the university for their whole lives, and at a very, very high rate. And people just love the school and love their experience and love the platform that it gave them and the opportunities that it gave them afterwards. So I think the difference is they love being there and they love being from there. And so that brings together a community of just really passionate people. I'm not sure if you've ever been to the P-Raid and some of the reunion events, and you just are amazed at how passionate people are.
Thousands of people.
Yeah, thousands of people wearing a lot of orange and a lot of black, and they just get so enthusiastic about the school. So I think that networking naturally occurs through the relationships that are developed.
Now, is that alumni reunion thing that happens each year? What does the athletic department do with that? Do they do anything with that?
Oh, yeah, we do. I think in some reunion weekends, I have like 45 events to go to. So every friends group that I was talking about before generally will sponsor either an alumni game, or they'll sponsor a barbecue, or they'll sponsor some type of a meeting where the student athletes will talk about their experience. I mean, it's an unbelievable weekend. It starts Thursday, goes all the way through Sunday morning, and it's fun, but it's also really educational. Last year, I helped moderate a panel with various alums that were in the sort of sports world, the business of sports, and that was really fun. And you get to see people from all different class years, recent graduates to graduates from in the 40s and the 50s, and all really enthusiastic about being back and having a great time. So we try to do a lot around that event, and we have a ton of fun.
I bet. So how many things do you get involved with outside of Princeton University? Is there things that you go to, conventions, things
Absolutely.
of that sort?
Yeah, I mean, I think the Ivy League itself has a very sort of committed group of athletic directors and executive director and her staff that are actually based in Princeton, which is nice. And so we meet, 3 or 4 times a year as a group. And there's a lot of sharing of information. There's a lot of collegiality. I mean, I think we compete, fiercely against each other every weekend and throughout the week. And there's a lot of pride in the success that each school has or doesn't have. But when we come together as a group, again, I think the model of the Ivy League is so different in that we really, truly are trying to use our athletic platform to educate in every way. And so we share best practices, we share ideas. So we spend a decent amount of time during the year, working with that group of people. And then, there's the NCAA conventions. I'm also involved in Women Leaders in College Sports, which is a really exciting organization. It sort of provides opportunity for women in college athletics. And they have a dynamic organization, and I go to those conventions as much as I can and sort of engage with other women college administrators, athletic administrators.
And that's all women's sports, so that's all...
Or just women who work in college athletics, so not just women's athletics. Obviously, I'm the athletic director of the whole program at Princeton Men's and Women's, and so there are people there who work in all different facets of college athletics. That come to various events that they sponsor. So that's a great networking opportunity. There's a bunch of other conventions throughout the course of the year, but I try to make sure I get to as many of those and NCAA conventions if I can, and then all of the Ivy League stuff. And there's also some interesting committees. I'm on we're celebrating in 2019 the 150th year of college football, and Princeton and Rutgers played in the first game. And so, but the whole sort of world of college sports is coming together to celebrate the 150 years of college football.
Is that actually going to happen? Princeton and Rutgers play again?
No, we're not going to play each other, but we're going to do some. We're working really closely with the Rutgers athletic department, and we're going to do some events together, and it's going to be a really great celebration of college football and what college football has meant to society throughout the 150 years of its existence. And so I'm on a committee with a number of leaders in college football as the representative of Princeton since we played in the first game. And the Rutgers athletic director is also on the committee. And so that's been really fun to meet people from various conferences and to really talk at all levels of what football has meant, and sort of, they'll talk about some of the challenges that exist in football at this time. And it's been really fun so far.
Great. Fantastic. So usually the last question I usually ask my guests, because we're coming to the end of our show, is what advice do you want to give to the parents out there that their sons and daughters are interested in going to Princeton University? What advice would you like to give them?
Well, obviously, I mean, academics are the first and most important thing, and working hard and putting in the effort and having the right sort of attitude about school is most important, and working as hard as you can to be the best version of yourself academically. Obviously, people have different levels of abilities and all of that. And so not to put too much pressure on kids that they have to go to one specific place, because there are a number of great institutions out there. And so I have a high school, I have 3 kids, and my oldest is a freshman in high school. And I want her to love learning and to love the classes that she's in and push herself as hard as possible and be committed to getting the work done, and then the results will follow. I think the other thing that Princeton, particularly in Princeton Athletics and Princeton University, really look for is sort of character. And that's something we focus on all the time within athletics is character is the thing you can control. Your integrity and sort of who you are and how you live your life is the thing that you can control. So control it, and I always say control the controllables. And so I try to tell my kids all the time, like, don't put too much pressure on yourself. Just be a great person, work as hard as you can possibly work, and you'll find the place and the path that best suits you, whether it's at Princeton or someplace else. I think that fit is really important, and just kind of trying to be the best version of yourself is really my biggest advice, because there's a lot of great places and there's a lot of great ways to live as long as you're sort of taking care of business, to the things that you can control.
Great. Well, thank you very much for coming on the show.
My pleasure. It was great.
Yeah. So you've been watching The Secrets of College Planning. I'm your host, Anthony Uva. Until next time.